Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for being here today. Today we're going to be creating this card together, so let's get started. The products we'll be using today are the Fragrant Layers stamp set and dies from Stampin' Up, as well as the Everyday Arches dies. The colors we'll use are Berry Burst, Old Olive, and Pecan Pie. And then I have cardstock in Very Vanilla, Pecan Pie, and Old Olive. So I die cut a few of my pieces just to have them ready. This is my card base. It's an A2 base, 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And then I use the Everyday Arches to cut out a layer of Pecan Pie. That'll be the back layer. This Very Vanilla will be our main layer that we're going to stamp on. And then I'm going to show you how I did this little frame in the Old Olive. That'll be in a minute. And then I cut out using the Stylish Shapes die is one of the little banners for our sentiment. And then this little leaf is from the Fragrant Layers die set. It comes with a few different little leaves that coordinate, and that's what this one is. So we'll set all those aside and do our stamping. The fun thing about this stamp set is it's super quick and easy. You can pick whatever colors you want to coordinate. If you want to use black as your base, and a color inside, you can do that. I chose to use Pecan Pie just for something a little different. And then this big outline stamp is the first layer we're going to stamp. So I'm just going to ink up that stamp. I'm actually going to turn it this way and stamp right onto our Very Vanilla layer. Isn't that pretty? It just stamps so nice. You could even leave this just by itself and have that kind of be your main focal point. It's just, I love the line art on this stamp. And then you could color this in with markers if you wanted. You could do some watercoloring, but the stamp set comes with this stamp that actually fills in all of the flowers. So I'm going to be using Berry Burst. We'll get that inked up. And it's pretty easy to line up. It doesn't have to be perfect. It could, be a little off and be kind of a little bit whimsical, but it's fairly easy to get lined up. I have to just kind of get my head over here a little bit. And press. And there we go. That fills in all those little flowers. Now we have a couple more stamps to continue filling in the parts of this. So let me grab Old Olive. We'll do the leaves next. And there are 3 different stamps for the leaves. So you kind of just have to look at the shapes of them. Of course, this one with 3, we know where that goes right here. So let's do that one first. Ink that up in Old Olive. Okay, and then there's 2 stamps that have the 2 little leaves. And if you just kind of hold them over, you can figure out which one goes where, just by the shape of them, kind of how they turn. So this one goes here, and I didn't get that super lined up, but that's okay. And that one there. And I'll show that a little closer again. And then the last thing I'm going to do is just stamp the little circle into the middle there. The stamp set comes with a couple different options for that center, but for this one, I'm just using this little round stamp, and I'm actually going to stamp off. So in case you're not familiar with that term, stamping off just means you ink up your stamp, and then you stamp it once onto like a scrap piece of paper, and then use whatever ink is left on your stamp onto your main image. So we're getting rid of a little bit of that ink so it's not so intense and dark. I didn't want a super dark brown middle. I wanted just kind of a little bit of a tan. Okay, and our main image is done just like that. So you could really mass produce these cards with this set. You could do any color combo you want. There's just really a lot of options, and it turns out really pretty. The stamp set does come with 4 sentiments included. So happy for you, hello, it's your day, and just a note. So I'm going to use the it's your day sentiment on this card. And the die set does come with a couple little banners or tags that could be used as sentiment strips. I chose to use, like I said, from the Stylish Shapes dies. I used one of the banners out of there because I liked how it looked, and it fits this sentiment really well. So I'm going to grab the Pecan Pie again so that it all coordinates. And I'll try to get this lined up. All right. And now we will assemble the rest of the card. So let's bring our other pieces back in. And I am first just going to use some tape runner and put our Pecan Pie layer down. I just went and checked the website. So as of recording this video, these Everyday Arches dies are still available. I am going to use some dimensionals on the back of our main image here, just to pop that up a little bit. And get that centered. Now, I said I was going to show you how I did this additional little frame. I decided to cut the frame out of Old Olive a little bit smaller than this vanilla piece, just so it could lay on top, just for a little interest. So what I did was I took 2 of the dies out of the Everyday Arches. So I used the 3rd size down from the biggest to make the vanilla panel. And then I used the next 2 smaller, and I put them together on a piece of Old Olive cardstock. I like to use some kind of Post-it tape. It's a low-tack tape, so it won't tear the cardstock when I take it off. You can see I just have a little bit of a border between the 2. That's how they fit together. But you try to, oops, and then I moved them. You try to get them as even as you can lined up on your cardstock, so it's even all the way around, and then run that through your die cutting machine, and you'll end up with this little frame plus the inside piece. So this piece I'm not going to be using, but just know that you'll get a whole extra panel. You can use that on a different card. You could use it to cut out other shapes, like, maybe you want to cut your leaves out of there or something like that. So that's how you can do that. I am going to use a little bit of glue since it's a little thinner, and I like to hold on to my pieces with a tweezer when they're kind of small and I'm trying to add glue. All right. And then we'll just lay that down so it has somewhat of an equal border all the way around. That liquid glue gives you a little bit of time to wiggle it into place too, if you have to kind of do some shifting. And then you can always sneak a little more glue underneath if you need. And then I usually like to lay something kind of heavy on top, so I'll just take my acrylic block, lay that right on there just for a minute or so, and let things dry so that it'll stick. All right, and then for the last couple finishing touches here on the card, I am going to glue this little leaf onto my sentiment, just kind of off on the side. And I know that I want to have it kind of over here at the beginning of the words, so I'm just going to put a little dab of glue there. And then I also did a little twine bow, and I'm going to just put that on top of the leaves. Actually, I'll put the glue down here, I think. And then I did put a couple of dimensionals on the back of our sentiment, so we're going to pop that up. And we're just going to have it kind of coming across right about there, just below the middle. And just like that, our card came together. Such a pretty set, the Fragrant Layers. I am going to show you just a couple other cards that I made using this set. This one is very similar. I did a little bit of stamping off with the ink before I stamped it down, just to keep the colors a little bit more muted. And then this one I did add some distressing. I inked around the edges with the Pecan Pie on the sentiment and the main vanilla base. I did use an edge of a tool just to kind of rough up that vanilla edge also. And then this Pecan Pie layer in the back here, I used the two-tone cardstock, which has that white middle, the white core, and I used an embossing folder. So when I did that, you can, you know, either it'll kind of crack and show that white core, or you can use some sandpaper. So I kind of went around a little bit with sandpaper just to expose a little bit more of that white core, just to give it some interest. So that's that one. And then this one's completely different. I used the dies that are included in this set. So these dies don't actually cut out that main stamped image. They line up, but it doesn't cut around it. It's kind of interesting. You have to play with it a little bit, but what it does do is give you some additional options, like cutting out the outline of those flowers, plus these little flowers, all these cut at once. And I put 3 of them into the middles of those, and then I cut these leaves, all 3 sets of leaves. I did do some additional inking around them. I used the hello out of the set. I stacked a couple of the everyday arches together. They're not layered on top of each other, and they're not raised up. I just, you know, did a couple different layers and glued them straight down, and inked around the edge of my paper here. This is from the Everyday Happiness Designer Series paper, and that is still available on the website. I'll link all these products below. And then lastly, I'm actually going to have another video coming out with this one. I used a couple different colors. We'll go over all of that in the video. I did a little bit extra distressing, kind of a vintage distress look. So look for that video to be coming out in the next couple days here. I guess I do want to also point out back on this one, if you can see just really faintly in the background, I did use a stencil that I just had in my stash, and really lightly with that Pecan Pie, did a little bit of stenciling. So I'll show all of that when I show you how I made this card. Thank you so much for joining me today for the video. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial, and have a great rest of your day.